Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Duston Yugioh deck profile for December 2021. I always love updating the Dustin deck. This is a level 1 Fiend type deck that focuses on a bunch of random Dustin monsters that you can special summon out onto the field, and the main playstyle is to just OTK your opponent with any of the setup you use, either giving them some pesky Dustins that they can't use for Fusion, Xyz, Synchro, or being tributed, or just attacking into them with some of your big boss monsters like Goblin King, or shutting down your opponent with Star Dustin. These are some of the resources you'll look into using, since they don't stop your opponent from link summoning the Dustins away, so you want to make sure you make full good use of the different Dustin monsters on the field before you go for the kill play against your opponent. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our main go-to Dustin, we are running 3 House Dustin. When this face-up card on the field is destroyed by your opponent's card effect, either by battle or if it was face-up at the start of the damage step, or by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon any Dustin monsters of your choice from your hand and or deck anywhere on the field, but you must special summon an equal number on each side. So you can swarm the field with 5 Dustins on each side of the field. There are some specifics you definitely want to go for with this deck, but mostly you have those options giving you those resources to then use against your opponent with your own Dustin monsters before they have anything to be done with their own. So 3 House Dustin is definitely needed. It's your main go-to startup card for the deck. For some of the other Dustin monsters, we are running 2 Red Dustin. You really don't want to max out numbers on any of the Dustins. Red Dustin cannot be used as Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz material for a summon while this card is face up on the field. It cannot be tributed. When this card on the field is destroyed, the controller takes 500 damage. So if your opponent controls the Red Dustin and you destroy it, they'll take an additional 500 points of damage. And you want to make sure to special summon the Dustins in attack position on your opponent's field, because that's the main play you will use against them with them. I also run 2 Green Dustin, with this one having the same restrictions as Red Dustin. With this one, when it's destroyed, the controller targets one spell or trap they control and return that target to the hand. More of a better one for your opponent to utilize if they have like a continuous spell or a field spell that gives them the search, being able to bounce that card back to their hand. Definitely, it could be one of the ones you put on your side of the field in preference over your opponent, but you can only control one face of Green Dustin, the same with Red Dustin, so you can't give your opponent 2 Red Dustins. You have to just give them one of each of the different types of Dustins. The next one being Yellow Dustin. With this one, when this card on the field is destroyed, the controller targets one monster in the graveyard, shuffles that target into the deck. Another better one for you to have, just for the fact that it gives you recycle options for House Dustin. You can even give your opponent a House Dustin for the destroyed Dustin option. It doesn't specify that you can't use House Dustin when it's destroyed. It's just a one that doesn't really have many effects on their side of the field, so it could potentially be one for you also. And lastly, 2 Blue Dustin. With this one, banish one random card from its controller's hand face down until the standby phase of the next turn. This can definitely take away some plays for your opponent. So red and blue are ones I always give to my opponent, just because they're preferred for those shutdown plays. For some of the higher numbers for the Dustin monsters, I do run 3 White Dustin. This one has no restrictions at all, being a level 1 normal monster. So you can give yourself multiple copies of White Dustin on the field. There's no card effect, obviously, like blue, yellow, green, and red have, that you can only control 1. So you can just give yourself 3 White Dustin and then have that resource readily available to use for all of your extra deck plays. Normally, you want to remember to give yourself Dustins in defense mode, because there's really not much they can do to attack with, but still, once again, a good resource to use. And for the last of the Dustin monsters, I run 3 Star Dustin. This is really one of your go-to play cards. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by sending any number of Dustin monsters you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card's attack and defense become equal to the number of monsters sent to the graveyard for the summon times 1000. Your opponent cannot flip or special summon any monsters or activate any set spell or traps on the field. If you control more monsters than your opponent, destroy this card. It's basically kind of like a shutdown play method, similar to Mystic Mine for your opponent. So with it, you send any number of Dustins you control to the graveyard. This can give you the option to keep just the Star Dustin on your field, and then making your opponent be stuck with all the Dustins you gave them, making this card a powerhouse in the process, and also for the fact that they can't set any spell or traps, they can't special summon any monsters. There's really not much they can do, even with their restrictions with their Dustins already. For more of the level 1 Fiend support, I also run 3 Stygian Security. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon 1 level Fiend type monster from your deck. So if you want a quicker search to go into House Dustin, you can just swing into your opponent with this card, or they can even destroy Stygian Security, and then that gives you a special summon of your House Dustin on the field. It's also already face up on the field thanks to that. So you'll be ready to go with the special summon right after this card. And then the last of the monsters we run in the main deck, I just run 3 Goblin King, another one of your main go-to win condition monsters. While you control another Fiend monster, this card cannot be attacked. This card's attack and defense become equal to the number of other Fiends on the field times 1,000. If you give you and your opponent an equal number of Dustins, so 4 each, and then make room for summoning out Goblin King, you can then swing into that Dustin monster that you put in attack position on your opponent's field, and that is 8,000 attack right there. That could be the game-winning play if they have a little more life. Just attack into their red Dustin. That's the additional 500 burn right there. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Jack in the Hand. You reveal 3 level 1 monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent adds 1 to their hand, you add 1 to your hand, and you shuffle the 3rd into your deck. You can only activate 1 Jack in the Hand per turn. So what I would not recommend is revealing Star Dustin with this. There's a chance you could add this card to your hand with this, but also the chance that you could give it to your opponent, and then they just have this resource to take away from their own Dustin monsters. You really want to go for more of the House Dustin option, or just one of the go-to other Dustin monsters that your opponent might not prefer having in their hand, like blue or red. So blue, red, House Dustin, and you also have the Stygian Security, destroy by battle and sent to the graveyard option with this card, and just with the resource your opponent gives. But it's more for the fact that they add 1 to your hand, you add 1 to your hand, then shuffle the 3rd into the deck. It's that choice and search you need definitely for the deck. I also run 3 Where Art Thou. This is another great search. This is the one I prefer to search out Star Dustin with. All I have to do is control a level 1 monster. You will take 2,000 points of damage, but you really don't spend life or anything else in this deck, so it's really not that big of a problem overall. And I also run 3 Pot of Extravagance. There's really nothing in the extra deck we greatly need for any of our plays. I do need draw power, though. You do need resources, and that's where this card comes in handy. If you don't have Pot of Extravagance, you can always try Pot of Duality instead. It's more of a budget version. You won't be able to special summon on the turn you summon it. This is more here just because, like I said, there's nothing really in the extra deck I would miss that gets banished with this card, but I definitely do need draws in this deck to use. And then lastly, for the rest of the spell lineup, I run 2 double summon. That additional normal summon, you go for the House Dustin. So what you can do and have this play, you summon out House Dustin. Then you go for double summon, summoning out your Goblin King. Then you can go into battle phase, swing with your House Dustin, summoning all of them on the field, and then swing with Goblin King for the gameplay there. I even considered running 3 of this card. It is very, very useful. If I were to do so, I'd probably take out the Monster Reincarnation. I run 1 of that and 1 for 1. 1 for 1 can just, once again, summon out House Dustin on the field to start your plays. Monster Reincarnation is more for me to recycle other cards back to my hand, like Star Dustin to make use of again, or even Goblin King if my opponent finds a way to destroy it on the field. And for the last of the main deck cards for the trap lineup, I run 2 Level Limit Area A and 2 Battle Mania. The Battle Manias are an option. You can try Final Attack Orders also, just so your opponent has to attack with their Dustins into your own monsters. But Battle Mania basically does the same thing with that Dustin setup. The only risk is your opponent will try to link summon those monsters away. But depending on what you have on the field, they'll still have to attack with, you know, the resources you left. Level Limit Area A at least keeps all the level 3 or lower monsters in attack position, so they can't go on the defense with their own Dustin monsters. And then that is it for the main deck. Moving on now to the extra deck, I run 1 Link Karibo. This is a pretty generic extra deck lineup because a lot of these are just going to be extravagance targets. I also run 2 Link Spider. These are here for the White Dustin, so I can have some different name options on the field to use, and then special summon an additional one on the field if I do open up multiple White Dustin in my hand. 1 Master King Archfiend for the Fiend monster plays. 2 Nightmare Phoenix for more of the spell and trap destruction, because you really do want to resolve your plays. If you can make this card, it definitely does help. And also 1 Underclock Taker, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Penistag. This is in the option of if you do have to attack into a defense monster with your Goblin King, you can at least do some damage. 2 Nightmare Unicorns, once again, avoiding the banishment for the Pot of Extravagance by chance by running more. 1 Blackluster Soldier, Soldier Chaos. If you want to run Boral Load Dragon instead of this card, you can do that. Additionally, Boral Sword, 1 Decode Talker, and 1 Saryuja Skull Dread for more draw options with the many, many different monsters we can summon onto the field. As for the go-to plays, I spoke before about the level 1 search. If you have the double summon, the Goblin King, and also your House Dustin on the field, and your opponent only went for, let's say, either the extra monster deck play or the 1 monster zone play, this could potentially be game right here. What you'll do is you will summon out your House Dustin. You will then use double summon, giving you the additional normal summon of Goblin King. That's 2 monsters on your field. You will then swing into your opponent's monster with your House Dustin, regardless of what the damage you take. You will then special summon the amount of Dustins on each field, so you can summon out the 4 on your field. Remember, you can only control 1 of each of the colors. The same goes for your opponent. You will then give them, you can even give them a House Dustin, a red Dustin, and then also a yellow and green or blue. It doesn't really matter, because your big play here then will be that you control 4 Dustins and they control 4 Dustins, putting the Goblin King up to 8,000 attack, swinging into the red Dustin for 8,000 damage, and that being game. You also need to rely a lot on the search power. If you have your Dustins set up and ready to go on your field, what you can do then is then just shut down your opponent by summoning out your Star Dustin by sending all the Dustins you control to the graveyard. Summoning this card will give it a 4,000 attack point monster. You can swing into your opponent's red Dustin. And then if you have any of your trap options, like your level limiter A or your Battle Mania, not only will your opponent not be able to switch them to defense, they won't be able to set any cards, they won't be able to use them for any link summon resource, and then you can just swing into another Dustin for the game-winning play. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I always love updating this deck. It's a really, really fun deck to give a try if you're looking for something random and some pretty adorable Dustin Fiend monsters with each one. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.